Hello and welcome back to yet another GCSE revision video. Now, I want to give you the top cheat code that if you master this year, English will be on easy mode. The cheat code to doing really well in English, and once you master this, English GCSEs, either English language or literature, will be absolutely on easy mode for you, is analysis. In fact, analysis, which for a lot of students is very little understood. And sometimes that's because some teachers don't do a great job in explaining and breaking down exactly what analysis looks like. So there's usually a lot of confusion. Miss, I thought I was analyzing. Sir, I thought I was analyzing. My essay is this long. I have 2 or 3 pages of written responses. I thought I was analyzing. Where am I going wrong? They sometimes get very vague feedback on what analysis looks like, and so they're confused. So what I want to do, guys, is to show you how to nail this skill down in English and really play English on easy mode once you understand exactly how to analyze. And this skill is so important that English teachers and ultimately examiners spend majority of their time when they are marking students' essays looking for this, looking for the degree to which they analyze. And in fact, if I'm being completely honest, I literally spend 70 to 80% of my time during my GCSE master classes going over and going into a lot of depth on analysis. In the model answers that I write for my students, and when we go over different questions for language, paper 1 and paper 2, analysis takes the bulk of our time, because that is the #1 skill that gets students those top grades. And that's really why 96% of my students on GCSE results day who are part of these master classes ended up getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s, which was well above the national average, as GCSE results and pass rates for English and maths had actually gone down this year. It's because my students understood how to analyze. So I want to show you exactly how to do this and get English on easy mode. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes to playing English in easy mode, analysis is what separates top 10% of students. Remember that just under 10% to 9.6% of students ended up getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s in the GCSEs on results day. I'm not making up the statistics, literally looking up on Google. And the reason is, and the bulk of the reason is, because they had really fine-tuned their analysis skills. Okay, so this is really what, once you understand this and once you're able to consistently analyze really powerfully when you're looking at a language paper 1 or language paper 2 extracts, and indeed even literature paper 1 and paper 2, you will easily find yourself among the top 10% of students, not only in your school, in your class, but ultimately in the country, especially if you're in year 10 and year 11 and preparing for your GCSE exams. Now, remember, as I've mentioned, teachers and examiners focus a lot of their times when they're marking students' work looking for the quality of analysis. And as I said, it's so critical as a skill that I spend 70% of my time in my master classes breaking down exactly how to analyze. And as I said, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. If you want to see how this is in practice, just simply join in my Sunday 5 p.m. classes. Every single Sunday, we focus on really fine-tuning these skills, and we're all on the road to getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s in mock exams and class assessments and ultimately GCSE exams. So this is how to analyze in 3 steps. Master this, apply this when you're practicing English. And once you're able to fine-tune this, English is on easy mode. Anything can be put in front of you and you'll find that you're consistently getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s in your assessments, in your essays, because you've mastered this really critical skill for English. Step number 1, this is how you analyze. Start with point and evidence, okay? Easy enough. And majority of students do this, okay? So when they're given an extract and a question, they start by addressing the question and then even selecting a quote, and then they stop there. What they tend to do, so a lot of students who write pages and pages and pages, they're taking one quotation, a second quotation, third quotation, the essay is filled with quotes. They're then saying, okay, this is what this, relating it back to the question. Point number 1, this is what the writer has written, here's some evidence. This is something else that the writer has written, here's some evidence. This is what else I've written. And so no matter how much they've written, they're finding that they are stuck at a grade 3 or 4 at best because their writing is shallow and their analysis is lacking. This is step 1. Doesn't matter how many points and how much evidence you pack your essay with. If you stay at just this first step, you are literally going to find yourself stuck at a grade 3 level, or even worse, maybe 2 or a 1, depending on how much depth you go into with your point and evidence. Don't stop there, because step number 2, and you're building on this per paragraph, is you then look at the quotation that you've mentioned. Okay, so now this is how you're building on analysis per paragraph. Then mention the writer's methods, in other words, technique. Are they using simile, alliteration, metaphors? If you're being asked to talk about the writer's structural techniques, are they using flashbacks, flash forwards? Are they having a sudden or gradual introduction of a character? All of this is language and structure. Again, if you're not clear on language and structure and terminology, I literally have prepared a terminology cheat sheet for all of my students who are part of my master classes. They know exactly how to distinguish and to get those AO2 marks, okay? So in step number 2, you've selected your point and evidence. Then you're looking at the quote. You're mentioning the writer's method. Now what you need to do is to start inferring, start explaining, why has the writer used this technique and this method in this quotation that you have selected, or in the quotations and quotes that you have selected. This is now where you're building up analysis. You're now inferring writers' meanings and you're relating it back to technique. You are going beyond just describing what's happening in the text. If you only stay stuck in point and evidence, you slip into description. The moment you then start looking at the quotation, unpacking what technique the writer is using, you start finding yourself hitting grade 5. However, if you're watching this, you probably want to be among the top 10% of students who are doing really, really well in English and playing it on easy mode and getting consistent 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s. This is the third and final step, the final boss of analysis. You are doing this in the same paragraph. You need to end with the same quotation that you've talked about: technique, simile, alliteration, flashback, flash forward, whatever. Then you pick out one word and then mention the reader effect. In other words, talk about what this word, what associations do we have with this word? What are the connotations? Mention what effect this has on readers and the degree and depth to which you go into as you are explaining this and as you are unpacking. Why is this technique being used? Why does the writer use this particular word? You then label it, for example, is it a noun, is it an adjective, is it a preposition, whatever it is. The degree to which you go into detail in the same paragraph, then you do this over 3, 4, etc. paragraphs. Then this is where you start hitting grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. And of course, if you now want to see how to do this in practice, how does this look like when it comes to past papers and past questions? And also, given that, of course, the GCSE exams for AQA have changed, okay? The structure has changed, and maybe you want to see how this looks like in practice. For the new structure for language paper 1 and paper 2, I go over this in lots of detail, and my students have loads and loads of model answers that they can use where they see, and I always color code this, what analysis looks like in practice. So of course, if you want to have access to that, and of course also ask me as many questions as you want, because these lessons that I have every single Sunday are live masterclasses. Lots of my students have found a lot of value from it. Of course, you're very welcome to join in. Ask me as many questions as you want, and ultimately, of course, as I said, we're all on the road to getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s, not only in the mock exams, but ultimately in the final exams. So I hope you found this helpful, and thank you so much for listening.